What the fuck is this world? What have they done to us? What did they do to us?
But Tom, if you
bedtime.
can find that link, that's Stephen Kowalski from Rainforest Reserves.
I have. I'll put it on, but it actually goes for 11 minutes. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I challenge anyone to watch it without crying.
Yeah, he does great.
Are we going to play it for 11 minutes?
Look, I know Steve. He's a great bloke. I don't agree with every point of view that he has, but I definitely agree with his protection of our North Queensland environment.
So Tom, you go for hours on WTF. So if anyone's got any objections, I'm sure they'll say in the comments.
And we won't care anyway. But sorry, just to give some background to this, I'll play the 11 minutes. I'm happy to. Who is Steve? Sorry.
Well, if you really want to dive deep, I've actually got about a 2-hour interview with him on the North Queensland Freedom.
No, we're not playing 2 hours.
Yeah, it might be a bit excessive. But for those who want to get into it, Steve is an environmentalist. He's not, a Greens, candidate. He's not a politician. He is a genuine, I love my fucking environment kind of dude.
He's not the photographer from Four Corners, is he?
I don't know
if you play it,
if I could say yes or no. But he is a photographer. He does amazing work. He loves his environment.
So I think it's the guy from Four Corners. Actually.
I was talking to him at one point. I'm like, those weird ass greenies are going, chain themselves to fucking trees and shit. He's like, yeah, that's me. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
I better change my approach. He loves his environment.
Let's not forget that 20 years ago, the hippies that chained themselves to trees actually did care about the environment. The fucking retards who do that in the past 2 years are fucking nut jobs.
But that's what we're seeing, is that division.
Hello and welcome. My name is Stephen Nowakowski, and I've been working on some 3D modelling showing the spatial footprint of wind and solar factories in Queensland. You have to remember this is just Queensland alone. And I think the general public do not understand the task at hand to achieve net zero. Just to build a new electricity system, which only equates to 30% of our emissions, a complete overbuild of the electrical network needs to be undertaken. I say overbuild because we need to triple the nameplate capacity or the generation by 3 because of the low intermittent nature of renewables. The problem in Queensland is that we do not have the wind along the coast where the electricity is being consumed. So therefore, developers need to scale the heights of the coastal ranges and the Great Dividing Range to get elevation to tap into any of those wind resources that are available. And it is these areas that have escaped industrialisation, urbanisation and agriculture due to their rugged terrain and inaccessible topography. These places are now under attack. And I'll show through this modelling the scale of this. Yes, we're looking at over 3,000 wind turbines along the Great Dividing Range of Queensland. This number will need to be tripled by 3, say 9,000 turbines to keep the lights on. Over 4,000 kilometres of new haulage roads and over 100,000 hectares of remnant forests to be impacted upon with this rollout. Starting to the south of the state of Queensland, we've got Bottle Tree Wind Farm. Moving over to what we've got here is McIntyre. We've got Captain's Mountain. McIntyre Wind Farm, the bulldozers are in there right now. That's very, very big wind farm. A number of solar factories in there, up around Chinchilla. Moving into the Bungaban near Taroom in central Queensland. We only found out about this wind farm about 3 weeks ago, and then it went straight to Plebiscite 2 weeks ago. So we've had no capacity to comment. Wambo Wind Farm, the Cooper's Gap. Cooper's Gap is operational. Iron Leaf Wind Factory. Yeah, and then heading over to Tuan Wind Factory on the Sunshine Coast. Most residents would not know about this one. It's massive in scale. That was the first wind factory where the state government overturned legislation to build wind factories inside state forests, which is a bad precedence. Moving into Stony Creek, this is a shocker on a really beautiful mountain range, remnant forests. Should not be going ahead. I don't have the footprint for this Inverra wind factory, but I do have the locations of the turbines. Aldoga, there was classified of concern forest there. That was cleared a few weeks ago. The offsets there were a scam. Moving into Specimen Hill, this was approved by plebiscite or the federal government 2 years ago. This should not have been approved. Beautiful, beautiful range of mountains. The Caribou Wind Factory, mostly on cleared land there. Banana Range, I was fortunate to go up in a helicopter just recently. A nice range of mountains west of Rockhampton. Smoky Creek Solar Farm. Again, a huge amount of land covered in glass. Collide, that is a magnificent chunk of range country. There should not be turbines going into that country. That's Upper Calliope, 2,700 hectares of solar, a massive solar factory which is going to be used as an offset for Rio Tinto smelters. Mount Hopeful was just recently approved by plebiscite. Yellow belly gliders, northern quolls, a magnificent range of mountains that should not be fragmented and blasted out. Boulder Creek, again, a wonderful remnant chunk of mountains. High biodiversity. This has been approved. We're expecting bulldozers into this area any day now. A disaster wind factory that should not be going ahead. Moving over to Moa Creek Wind Factory of ground truth here. Again, great remnant forests. This cliff line, all these ranges covered in turbines and roads. Roads up to 60 metres wide for cut and fill up the steep inclines and the steep gradients. Moonlight Range, a beautiful range of mountains again. Here we see Moonlight Range. I've been there, magnificent. Should be a national park. It's going to get carved up and smashed to smithereens. Moving over to the Boomer Range Wind Factory. In the foreground here is Goodadulla National Park. And hard up against that national park is the Boomer Range Wind Factory by Arc Energy. In that northern section there, of concern vegetation, wonderful vegetation, again to be fragmented. My best experience with greater gliders were in this part of the wind factory area. Moving north, Clark Creek, I flew over this a couple of weeks ago, and there is 4 bulldozers in there right now, smashing beautiful vine forests on top of this range. The most wonderful patches of forest left west of Rockhampton, harbouring the full suite of biodiversity and no sediment control, no erosion control, roads being pushed through. The northern section, particularly to the north up here, is sacrilege. It should not, these roads should not be going in there. That should all be national park. Beautiful range of mountains. Coming into Lotus Creek, there's 2 dozers in there right now. I hope to be down there soon, photograph this. A complete disaster, should not have been approved. Highest density of koalas in Queensland, highest density of greater gliders in Queensland. This should be the Great Koala and Greater Glider National Park of Queensland. The densities of koalas in here is phenomenal.
It's okay,
I've never seen so many
Plebiscite has a
koalas in my
club
life,
for them.
and it should not be smashed to smithereens for a wind factory.
To save those koalas,
Yungala
we've got a
and
club.
the Proserpine and Mount Challenger wind farm sites. People don't know the scale of that. There's about 300 to 400 turbines going into that country, into that hinterland behind Proserpine. Here we have solar factories, Karma, Hidden Valley. This is a new one we just found, Hidden Valley Wind Factory, joining the Mount Fox Wind Factory. This is wet sclerophyll forest, 55 wind turbines. This is a switching station that's been built. There'll be a best built next to that. This is country on top of the Seaview Range, the most magnificent country you'll ever see. Again, worthy of National Park, earmarked to be smashed. This is the Upper Burdekin site. The biodiversity on this site, the endangered species list is off the charts. All this country beyond the Mount Fox crater, turbines, koalas, 3 gorge systems, hoot pines, Sharman's rock wallabies, Mark's stows, rufous bedongs, magnificent brood frogs, and even a red goshawks were found on this particular site. Moving over to the west on the alignment of Copper String 2.0 line, we've got the Kennedy Wind Factory. That's already operational. Prairie and Wangalee on the south side of the Porcupine Gorge National Park. This is really to facilitate the critical mineral mining. It's not necessarily to provide electricity, but critical mineral mining in that area, so we can build even more renewables. Yep. This is the Mount James area.
It's a big bit. Need the fucking
it doesn't show on this satellite imagery, but it is of high biodiversity. That Kidston pump, the Forsyth wind farm, good koala population in there. This is Sholumbin. We've just recently won the battle against Sholumbin, but it's still in the pipeline. It's only been withdrawn. It hasn't actually been officially refused or knocked back.
It's not a win.
Yeah, so 94 turbines in wet sclerophyll forest. Caban, this is now operational. 28 turbines in the scheme of things, quite a small wind factory. Beautiful forests were cleared, fragmented, and we've now seen all the raptors in that area go, and that's just been observed in the last 6 months. We're also seeing koalas and mammals moving away from that area where the turbines are. High Road Wind Factory. Problem with that is that they need to put high voltage transmission lines through the adjacent Bluff State Forest. Mount Emerald, that's Queensland's first industrial wind factory. Shuko Road Solar. Disraeli, 2,000 hectares of savanna woodlands to be cleared for that. Hard up against the AWC property. And Lakeland. I'll conclude by saying the entire length of our Great Dividing Range is under attack. Yep. The places we hold dear, our wild, remote places harbouring the last vestiges of our biodiversity, are being blasted away right now by ruthless developers and facilitated by compliant state governments who are fast-tracking the approval processes of these projects, and also facilitated by the entire conservation sector, who are totally asleep at the wheel, unable or incapable of stopping this juggernaut that they have unleashed. Exactly. Conservation groups are on the wrong side of history on this and need to wake up fast.
He said it very nicely, but fundamentally, it's the fucking lunatic greenies that have done this.
Hey, the federal government.
What I love about Steve is he's woken the fuck up. He's staring right down the barrel of reality, and he's like, fuck, this is wrong.
Rachel was just asking, what is this guy's name again? I'm pretty sure that is the photographer from Four Corners. Yeah, Steve. What's his last name?
Steve Nowakowski.
Yes, 100%. That's him. It did look like him.
I've got a huge interview with him on the North Queensland Freedom Network. He was a part of the original documentary. Excuse me. I was absolutely astounded because, you know, until I spoke to him and a few other people in the North Queensland environmentalist movement, I didn't realise that there are different kinds of environmentalists. You kind of all lump them into this lunatic green kind of construct. But although I don't see eye to eye with Steve on a lot of elements, you know, someone like Deborah from the Frog Hospital, if you're not familiar with that video, there's another one to look up. I see a lot more eye to eye with Deborah. But, you know, she introduced me to Steve and various other people who are in various environmental groups. most of them really care about the environment. You're starting to realise that the ones who don't care make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they pretend to care, and they put up wind farms, and they do solar things and battery things and all the kinds of things that are actually really, really bad for the environment while pretending to give a shit.